actually, this is Randy Dieter from the Tribune Review, and this is the Pro Wrestling Review.
I'm Brian Krause from the Daily News.
I'm Ginger Brizzo, and I'm coming out on DVD this week.
I'm on Laserdisc next week.
Laserdisc, huh?
We're just skyrocketing into the 21st century. Aren't we?
Yes. Laserdisc. Start over.
Tom, I believe you're coming out on LP too. If I'm not
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, that's tremendous.
Notwithstanding all the special features that we've been talking about, we do have a show coming up next, I guess. And we have a pay-per-view this week, No Mercy, and WWF did a decent job hyping it up on Raw.
Yeah, I think a better name for it would be No Interest.
Well, yeah, there's that too. Well, we brought up Mick Foley's name earlier, and his segment with Trish was certainly wonderful and
Oh, that was just
served
mind-numbing.
served such a purpose in hyping the pay-per-view. So we're going to get into all that stuff, and I think we might even have a little bit of a debate after Jim and I with our New World Order debate.
Yeah, our sparkling debate last week. I think people wrote in for far-off countries and said, wow, that was great.
I thought so. I mean, it was different. So,
Anything to bring the masses together, we have to be big fans of.
Exactly. So, but I did mean when I said though, and if anyone, except for this is like more like $5.
Yeah.
Foley, he
Just,
offered me $5 for it, so we may take him up on that offer. But anyone have anything else to say?
No, I think we should just go to the break.
How about you there?
Woo! We're just electrifying today.
All right. Okay. With that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about what happened on Raw. So please come back.
Talk about the second most lively show on earth, this past week's Raw. Thank God for Tony Banks and Anthony Wright sucking, because, you know, it's the only thing that prevented me from switching the channel a couple times. Sorry to be so negative, I don't know. They took a big step back this week, I think.
I don't know. I don't think it was a horrible show, but I guess using the strictest word of definition of horrible. But actually, I was flipping to Monday Night Football because, as everybody knows, I enjoy watching a lot of suck on TV. Which explains my affinity for charm nowadays. But
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Raw over the course of the past several weeks has been anything but memorable. It's pretty much been bad, and I've fallen asleep several times throughout the past couple weeks watching it. Last night's show wasn't too bad, but there's still a long way to go they're building from scratch again. And this was just an idea I tossed around last night. There is no separate promotion anymore. I mean, to break WCW away, the Alliance, whatever you want to call it, into another show, into another federation, it's not happening. Not anytime soon. There's no interest in it. There's no interest in the WWF right now.
Yeah, it would be really tough to do. I mean, I think it'll be different when Hall and Nash get there, but
If
how much
they do.
I think they will, but I mean, how long can that really last, though? You know?
when Hall and Nash come back,
Yeah.
how long that? Well, I don't.
Well, it depends how long the keg's tapped for.
I don't know. I don't have much. I don't put much stock into the drawing power of Hall and Nash anymore. I think they've been overused.
But they've been off television for a while.
Yeah,
That
I
always
mean, that's
helps.
true. It depends. It's the generic rating boost, I guess. When I say when Foley comes back or when Hall and Nash come back, I mean you're going to get some sort of bump there.
I think so.
Whether or not it's long term, whether or not Hall and Nash can contribute long term remains. We debated that last week.
Can you really debate that Foley coming back bumped the ratings? I mean, we
No.
all know he's not going to wrestle. He's just going to pawn his book off and fall out of his pants again for the 56th time in a row.
Yeah, we mentioned it before. It might have been off the air, but the opening segment of Raw could have been. They could have just shown dead air for 10 minutes and got more accomplished. You know, you figure at least with Foley being the commissioner, he'll come out and set up some matches for the evening or set up some things for the pay-per-view. What was that all about?
Well, here's the point behind a commissioner. A commissioner's supposed to make matches, right? Like you just alliterated
I
to.
think so.
The thing is, when you have people like Shane McMahon making matches, Stephanie, anybody in their right mind, Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, Steve Austin, Deborah, Bob Maselli, you have Sonny making matches. The thing is, the commissioner's role is watered down to the point where, he's just a guy that comes out and talks on the mic. He's one guy that can make matches.
Yeah.
The commissioner should be the be-all, end-all, say-all to make matches. At least it make it the title seem a little more legit.
But he's not, for some reason.
Yeah, Foley's legit.
Well.
He's good, he's legit, he's big.
I don't know, it remains to be seen if Mick Foley's return has any impact on fans as a whole. I thought it would at first, but who knows? I mean,
Halloween's just around the corner, and those kids are going to be buying that book
No,
with the
God.
razor blades and the Snickers bars and everything else Foley preaches. I'm sorry. I need
No.
to inject some humor into Raw. They need me as a writer. They need me to basically warp the show worse than it is right now.
And I mean, this whole angle to set up the main event last night, where Austin and a mystery partner, against Angle and a mystery partner, I don't know. And I mean, okay, at least the segment was useful in a sense because it revealed who the tag team partners were, but I don't know. It was, I don't know.
It just goes back to
I'm
the
so
same,
distraught.
it was a rough week.
Yeah.
It just goes back to the same problem as before. We talked about before. Even people writing into us have talked about it. It's the TV writing. I mean, I don't know if there's wrestling people writing this stuff or not, but it's just not working. I mean, I don't know how many ways we can say that.
There's so many ways to improve the product right now. We've alliterated this many different times on the website, on the show. It's going to take time, obviously. It's not going to fix itself overnight. It didn't get bad overnight. And, I mean, starting off, maybe make the titles mean a little more. Remember those things? I know he carries them to the ring and kicks them because he's too bothered to put it around his waist. I'm referring to The Rock, but I don't know. We just sound like a broken record on here. This Ritalin-based edition of Pro Wrestling Review here. We have to inject some life into ourselves, but there is no easy solution.
Well, I think one step, a big step they could take is, we said it before, our fans have said it before, get wrestling writers in there and do that. And then you have the ideas from the wrestling writers. Then if it's true that there are television writers doing Raw now, take those ideas, go to the television writers and say, well, this is the ideas we want to get across. What's the best way to get this across?
You know what? I'm getting a mental transmission that Rennie has something to say from the across the way. So if we can jump over to Rennie.
The Conan O'Brien said, actually. Notwithstanding Shane McMahon's best attempt to look like Bruce Wayne last night on Raw with his Gap sweatshirt and turtleneck. You know what? I gave the show a B, and after listening to you guys, I'm starting to wonder why. But I think they really made a conscientious effort to promote the pay-per-view. But the problem was, you almost got that sense that WWF was rushing to promote all the matches. Like Test did a run-in, and it was like, oh, by the way, Test is going to fight Kane this Sunday, and it's like, bam, well, there it is. And the SmackDown before Raw was actually good in a sense that it gave Rob Van Dam and Steve Austin a lot of time to build their rivalry. And then, unfortunately, there's a three-way this Sunday, and there's really not much to talk about with this three-way because I think Kurt Angle should be fighting William Regal since Regal turned heel. Now, I guess Regal suffered a bicep injury at the Madison Square Garden show last Sunday, so I don't know if that would have been possible anyway. But, I just think it needs to be more definitive with, Steve Austin versus Rob Van Dam because this is clearly the direction that the WWF's ready to go into. And, I just think, unfortunately for Kurt Angle, he's being stuck in there like a third wheel.
Well, that's certainly a good point. We gotta go here in a second. We just got the sign from the truck.
An inanimate object is flashing us a sign.
The gaffer ran past.
Yeah. We have more to get to, obviously, on the show. We're going to talk about No Mercy. I'm going to bring something up here, just off the top of my head. Is Rob Van Dam in trouble? He's been injuring quite a few people lately, and that's something the WWF doesn't like, so maybe we'll get to that later. We'll be back after this. Films presents, and we're going to talk about No Mercy, the pay-per-view I've dubbed No Interest, and that's coming up 24 hours from right now.
Well, I guess the crowd or the people who actually buy it should have mercy on their souls for buying it.
Yeah, really, the WWF's going to luck out in one area. There's no NFL football game on Sunday night because, well, it should have been the World Series, but we all know why that didn't happen. So they will have the full audience, and there will be nothing to watch on television other than, like,
Martin.
Yeah. So
in reruns, by the way. We don't want to excite anybody. It's not coming back. It's not coming back.
It's going to be the Martin Rock marathon at Nick at Night.
Oh, when Rock went live, when they were doing the show live, how many times Charles S. Dutton said the F word on live TV? It was wonderful.
I'm sorry about this.
Okay, just silence me right now.
Yeah, anyway, the main event for No Mercy, we talked about a little bit last segment. It's Rob Van Dam and Kurt Angle challenging Steve Austin in a three-way for the WWF title. And I think you pretty much know the position of this show that we'd rather see a one-on-one match, and this three-way is going to be 25 minutes of Angle pulling Rob Van Dam off of Steve Austin, and then Rob Van Dam returning the favor. So, just not really interesting as far as I'm concerned, at least the setup of the match.
And that's something you've brought up in the past, Rennie, knowing that you've particularly been against the three-way dances.
Only the way the WWF does them.
Yeah,
I can handle elimination because that at least gets down to one-on-one. But
I could too.
See, that right there is a lie. You remember the first ever three-way in the WWF? Savio Vega, the Patriot, and Hunter. You were on the edge of your seat. How many moons ago that was? You were so excited because of the fact that Savio Vega could win a three-way.
Was my favorite wrestler.
I know.
I shouldn't have divulged that, but
Yeah, well. Probably shouldn't
But
have.
for some reason you're rooting for Savio Vega, and the match was just a barn burner from start to finish. Savio pulling everybody, including himself, off the person being covered.
They actually had to have Shawn Michaels, who was doing color commentary at the time, stand up and entice the crowd to stop chanting boring. He was doing DX crotch chops. That's how bad it was. So, even though that, you can no way compare. Thanks.
See,
Rob.
he's no good.
No,
Not
he
Rennie.
wanted to say something. You can't compare, obviously, the Patriot and Savio Vega with Kurt Angle and Rob Van Dam, but still, the whole
Wow.
setup of the match,
We veered back onto the road.
always
was
coming
amazing.
back.
What a segue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
Oh, that's it. Well, okay. There you go.
So,
What are some?
go ahead.
No, very imperative. Go ahead.
Okay, we're just gonna keep saying go ahead for the next.
It's
3
just the
minutes.
politest addition, even though that's not a word.
Yeah, I'll just
Exactly.
sit here and watch.
The funny thing is, you look at this match and you know that either Steve Austin's going to retain, and they're not going to give the title to Rob Van Dam. And if they wanted Kurt Angle to have it, they would have left it on him.
Right.
So it seems pretty predictable that Austin's just going to keep the title, which serves really no purpose, and you shouldn't buy it.
Yeah, just don't buy the show.
Well, I mean,
Real simple.
not to crap on the whole parade of the three-way. It'll give Van Dam a chance to shine or flutter, basically,
Or hurt someone.
or
Seriously.
hurt somebody or bust somebody's eye open. The fact that he has been wrestling pretty good, consistent main event matches, I can't believe it. I heard a pin drop. No one scoffed.
Well, no,
He's in the other studio. I see him getting riled up over
Jim
there.
just slammed his head off the window.
But you understand what I'm actually trying to. The point I'm trying to make is Van Dam. He really could pull out a good match with some actual psychology. Limit the high spots. I mean, he is going to have to carry his portion of the match. Angle's a great wrestler. Austin's bored to death with wrestling as it is right now. So Van Dam's going to shine or not.
You know what? Jim's in the catering tent. And he has something else to say. So let's.
Put down the club sandwich.
There's club sandwiches over
Yeah, I'd
there.
like to point out the ravioli over here is very good. This new budget we have for this show is amazing. We got key grips, we got catering.
0 plus 0 equals.
I think we're getting a helicopter.
But I want to bring up 2 points here. Number one, Rob Van Dam. Does he deserve to be in this match? And number two, is he ready to be in this match? I think with the
Bet you're going to tell us.
you think? No, I think the yards of stitch work he's given most of his opponents over the past couple of weeks says he is not ready, and does not deserve to be in this match.
He just gets excited.
I don't think he's the star yet they want him to be. I think this match he has will go a long way towards that, but he's just not ready for this.
And that's it. That's pretty much. We're not going to do they're not going to do the main event now. They just called. They said Jim DeBruzo, you're right on the computer.
Put
here.
his foot down.
Yeah, no. Well, I think
Right
Jim
on
has.
Van Dam's groin. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I think Jim has some legitimate points, but I think what you get to right now is the situation that he's so damn popular. And all the kids love him, and they're all buying the T-shirts, and no one else is getting over. So we might as well just throw him in the main event. But I definitely would have rather have seen Regal Angle and just Van Dam Austin one-on-one. Why not? Let's give Austin a chance to sustain a lacerated kidney or crushed
Well, he's
larynx.
had fun over the last 4 weeks while he was sitting at home growing that goatee a little longer.
Yeah.
So he looks like that guy from the new hard hair commercials. But
You know what? I'm going to do that. I've decided. I'm not shaving my goatee anymore. I'm going to grow.
You're not
this
going to wear the
thing
knee braces, though, are you?
off. I have
silver
them on
trim.
now. They're under my pants.
We'll get you stilts.
Thank you.
I am the shortest person on the show, not to be dwarfed any more than I already am, but I wouldn't mind seeing somebody in a pair of stilts.
It's amazing. We've gotten through one match.
Yeah,
And
but think
that's the
about
only
it.
one, isn't there? It's 3 hours for that.
We need to do an old David Crockett and call the station after 5
Isn't-
minutes so we can get all the matches.
Well,
in.
Mick Foley, his return, he's wrestling Trish in a lettuce match, right? From what I was told. Oh, what I was told. I don't know how true that is.
No, I don't think you couldn't have it like a pudding match with Foley because he would just eat the pudding.
That's
and there
why
would
it's
be no
lettuce.
match.
Who eats white lettuce?
He does. Anything that's free.
It's true. I've heard that.
So I don't know. I'm going to his garage sale next week, so I'll let you know how he is.
Yeah. Bring me a bike.
Yeah, he has the old hardcore title. I think I'm going to pick it up.
It's black and white again. So I guess we'll send ourselves off here. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about the No Mercy pay-per-view. No Mercy.
He's not going to be joining us until later in this segment, but
They
We're
have
gonna-
Chip Tam over there too.
see ya.
Ugh.
We're going to talk a little bit more about No Mercy. One of the other matches that hasn't received that much hype, unless you count that really, really bad angle from this past Monday's Raw, is Edge versus Christian in a ladder match. And strangely enough, there's been no sight of any ladders or storyline for this other than what has happened over a month ago.
Well, we haven't seen SmackDown as of this taping, so that very well could have come into play. But let me draw on something that I think confirms something Tommy said earlier in the show about there's no longer two separate promotions. Christian as a heel is a great idea. Christian as a heel in the Alliance is a bad idea. And that just goes to show you're absolutely right. It's the NWO. That's all it is. It's no longer two separate promotions. Why in the hell? Why? So when Jericho turns heel, is now he going to be in the alliance?
Well, you know what? I think it's one of those things too. You have to look how Christian's not heel turn, but alliance turn was handled. Paul Heyman just stood up and said he's in the alliance. Wow. How anticlimactic can you get?
Well, considering the fact that there was a fax machine on the desk 2 weeks ago, this is actually an improvement, but not really. Well, about Christian, I mean, like you said, Brian, I absolutely agree with that. He would stand out in the WWF as a heel, but now he's in another company that doesn't exist as a heel that's going to get buried under Scott Norton if he was in the alliance. But the thing about the ladder matches, you look at all the previous ladder matches, the TLC matches. Edge and Christian did their part in the match. Did they shine in the match? Obviously, the Hardys shined. The Dudleys shined. Edge and Christian were just there for maybe just some of the psychology. Comic relief, solid spots, if you want to call it that. None of the high spots, so to speak. You're going to have a pretty good ladder match here, but is it going to meet expectations of what the TLC matches set so long ago? Well, not so long ago. I don't think.
Well, maybe even to the expectations about, people always compare one-on-one ladder matches to everything that Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels did from years back. So they certainly have a lot to accomplish with their one-on-one match.
I'd just like to bring one thing up before Jim heaves that roll at me that he's eating right now. Edge is getting consistently bigger pops on his way to the ring. Here's a trivia question. Why? Is it because Rob Zombie's singing his theme music, or is it because he's just that damn popular? And I see this roll getting heaved in my direction, so take it away there.
Or maybe Edge is just popular and a good worker. I'm going to take issue with the comments Tom had about the TLC matches. You point out Edge and Christian were just sort of there for psychology, as you put it. Yeah, boy, damn that psychology. Let's just trivialize that.
Well, this is a ladder match, by the way.
Well, it is a ladder match, but let's point out it's not going to live up to the TLC because there's only two people. I think you'll see a lot of Edge and Christian here. I think it'll be pretty brutal. I think it's one of the matches to look forward to, quite honestly. I think you kind of pretty much trivialize the Edge-Christian feud and their match by that statement.
Well, I think another thing they're going to do with trivializing, I think they're going to trivialize Christian's heel turn because I think he's going to lose the title. And, it'll put back on Edge and Christian. Christian's heel turn is the exact example of what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks of the inconsistent writing. It's like for a couple of weeks, Christian's a big-time heel, and then for a couple of weeks, it's like, well, he's in the back wearing a moon hat or whatever that hat he had with all the stars and the moons on. And that's just not going to work. It's not going to cut it. And if he loses the title after they kind of, quickly gave him the title, then sorry, but, steal Taz line, just another victim.
Well, notwithstanding the Intercontinental title match, we should also talk a little bit about the other main event, the WCW champion and everyone's favorite wrestler, The Rock. Yeah. We'll be putting the belt on the line against Chris Jericho in a feud that I think the WWF's handled pretty well. I mean, and I think this goes back again to The Rock. I just don't think he's into it anymore. He just seems really bored with what he's doing, and it shows with the fact that he hasn't been creative in years.
Well, I can't really disagree with that. I mean, he's still. I know Tom's sitting next to me when I say this, but I think he still looks okay in the ring. But I think his match with Jericho, I think Jericho can pull the best out of him. And perhaps this is something maybe that can get him interested again because Jericho is somebody who can challenge him on the mic and can challenge him in the ring and things like that. So, perhaps it'll work in his favor in that respect. But, Tom, you're just almost itching through your jeans here to say something.
Well,
I mean, as I said before, I'll give The Rock credit. He is a wrestler. But
how is that giving him credit?
I'm trying. Baby steps. I'm trying here. The fact that The Rock relies on humor for all of his promos and speaks about absolutely nothing related to his feud or the match, well, anything real about his feud, just takes me back to a time when Ric Flair could cut a 20-minute long promo, maybe have one reference to "It's right here, baby" or whatever the hell he used to say that was great. Talk about the title. Talk about how he's going to just take it to the other guy. That's not what I wanted to say, but you understand what I'm getting at. The fact that Ric Flair is the best talker in the world and The Rock, everybody thinks The Rock is the best talker in the world, it really hurts him. I don't know what I'm going at. I'm just really rambling here at the moment. The match with Jericho, in short, the match with Jericho at the pay-per-view will probably be good, but The Rock's going to walk away with the title because he doesn't lose.
Well, I can't discount the fact that The Rock's probably going to win this match, but I think it's how, and we talked about this when the Booker T Rock feud was starting. Booker T, or Chris Jericho, much like Booker T didn't, has to look strong. Booker T was absolutely squashed by The Rock. I mean, I don't think anybody can disagree with that. So I think if Jericho goes in, even if he doesn't win the title, he has to look strong against, The Rock. I mean, there's no way you can have 8 minutes of and then a people's elbow and just pin him.
Oh.
You might as well throw Jericho by the wayside then.
like they've done for the last 6 months. But just a couple other matches before we go to commercial is we also have Kane against Test. Wow, that's going to be a good one. And Undertaker against Booker T, which could be okay and just could be a disaster waiting to happen, but I can't think of anything.
Is there a women's match?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Mick Foley in a lingerie match against Dewey, and other than that, I think that's about it.
Wow.
So, sorry, we're gonna come back. Started coughing there for a minute. We're gonna come back and talk more about wrestling. So, please come back.
Hammer. So that's the best opening I could come up with, and I want you to take it away, Jim. Whatever. No, wait.
I'm just gonna pass it to Rennie because he's got this week's one.
All right, Rennie, pass it to
Let
me.
me wipe the tears away from my eyes from what you didn't see at home. Okay, this week's winner is David Gregg. He's from Dravosburg. He got all the questions right, and I don't know the actual questions that he answered. So, except for number 3, why Stephanie's a bitch. So he did a nice job with that. So
Is that
congratulations.
really
What's that?
Oh, I see. Okay.
What did he win? What did he win?
Well,
He answered 4
David
questions.
won. He won from Original Pizza Works. He's won one large, one-topping pizza, a dozen wings, and a 2-liter bottle of soda. And Brian has a gun pointing to the head because I can't say a carbonated beverage. Redeem that. You'll get your coupon. Redeem it at the Original Pizza Works in Devosburg. It's right over the bridge. And
He must not have far to go. He lives there.
yeah, actually, it's about 2 minutes away. So you know where it's at, Dave. I'm sure you're watching now. And we appreciate that. So.
And this
God, we
week's
suck.
yeah, good. That's okay. This week's question: what was the light heavyweight match that was featured at the 1997 WWF October pay-per-view Bad Blood? The light heavyweight match. Try to remember it.
I'd like to add that was the pay-per-view my friend's hot box broke at, and I didn't get to see the end of the greatest main event in the history of wrestling.
Before you take out this brilliantly directed and scripted segment, what else do they have to do to win pizza there?
Jim, that was a good story. You interrupted.
I'm sorry. Well, you said something illegal.
Oh yeah, you have to answer all 3 questions on the website. Answer this one. Answer it on Saturday. That's when the show airs. It's ProWrestlingReview.com. Yeah, answer it right now. It doesn't really matter. See, this is what happens when I don't go without a script. Anyway, answer the 3 questions on the website. This one, Pro Wrestling Review. And Rennie, did you read yeah, he read the question already. This is just one of those
Say
sledgehammer.
goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. Good luck. Apologize for that last trivia segment.
Why?
Something heavy fell in the other side of the studio, and we were all preoccupied with it.
I think it was the dessert table.
Somebody
Yeah.
ransacked the catering tent.
Yeah, there was no alcohol, so Brian was pretty pissed. And, you know.
There we go. Anyway, I think we're going to do some predictions this segment about WWF Invasion, which has already happened.
And
Even
God knows we're always right about our predictions.
well, here, why don't we predict Invasion? We'd still get it wrong because I didn't care who won the matches when they occurred at the time anyway.
See,
I'll
now
go
you
with Nick Patrick.
put the
For the
tape
main
on.
event.
Yeah,
All right, let's WWF No Interest this Sunday, 8 o'clock. Call your local cable distributor. And now we're going to tell you who's going to win so you don't have to order the pay-per-view.
By the way, it won't be available on DirecTV. I can't stress that enough.
It's a damn shame it's available anywhere, but
Boy,
okay.
you're really hard on this stuff, man.
No interest. Brian summed it up best. The pay-per-view
interest.
is absolutely dull.
Well, this is how interested I'll be in. I'll be in Columbus watching the MLS Cup. So.
To each their own, whatever floats your boat. Anyway, let's start off with the main event, and we'll work our way downwards, which the main event is downwards. So let's go.
Maybe we should tell them. Well,
They don't know what the main
they
event
know what
is.
the main event is. We've only said it a few thousand times. Steve Austin retains. Rob Van Dam's not ready for the title, and Kurt Angle, like I said, if they wanted him to have it, they would have kept it on him.
I think Kurt Angle's going to win.
Thanks. He's
Well, it's based on...
What?
just crapped on everything I just said.
Well, yeah, for the last 2 segments. But I don't know. I just have a feeling Kurt Angle's going to win. I don't know if it's the right decision. I would have kept the belt on. If they do decide to give Kurt Angle the belt, keep the belt on him to begin with. But
This isn't the debate segment, but why on earth would they give the title to Kurt Angle and they took it away from him?
it's a good question.
Yeah, it is. A good
I don't have an answer. I mean, if they are going to do that, I just said, if you listen to me, I just said you should have just kept the belt on Kurt Angle. He retains here. Austin Van Dam move off in their own. But I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I had to clear my throat. Main event, I'd have to say Austin retains. Why would they take it off Angle if they're just going to give it back to him? Van Dam's in no way, shape, or form ready for the title, which means he'll probably end up getting it, and then The Rock will come out and pin him and have both titles at the end of the pay-per-view. And speaking of The Rock, the double main event of The Rock versus a brown paper bag with a bottle of wild turkey in it. Who will win? Who will lose?
That's you and
I
that's
don't
you and your next
drink.
week. Well, yeah,
I'm not allowed anymore. Anyway, let's
Imagine.
Rock Jericho.
you're pretty crazy sober.
Oh boy. Okay.
Just imagine.
I guess I'll start. The Rock retains. I think Jericho has to look strong in this match. He probably won't, but at least I can hope that.
I think Chris Jericho's going to win.
Why? We have to know why, Jim.
Because
Viewers have to know why.
The feud is going to continue, and I think if you make it appear that The Rock is serious about getting the WCW World Title back, I think it ends an air of seriousness about it that hasn't happened.
Does Jericho turn heel at this match? And by turn heel, I don't know.
Well, these are just predictions. We don't want backstory.
By my scenario, or if The Rock
Yeah.
retains. If The Rock retains, Jericho turns heel. If Jericho wins, which I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it should. If Jericho wins, I think you wait till he loses the belt back to The Rock to turn him heel.
Tom?
And as I cuff my sleeve here because I do not care about The Rock, I would say you got the most mileage out of The Rock that you can with the WCW title.
I don't think you have any cuffs.
No, I'm trying though. Like I said, you got as much mileage out of him as you can. He's held the belt for how long? I don't even remember when he won the damn thing. Jericho wins. He needs a big push. He needs a big rub. And the Scorpion King is the rubber.
I think the end result, though, is whether Rock or Jericho wins is...
A little innuendo never hurt anybody.
I think that the end result is that this feud has to continue, and I think you need a serious feud. And I'm trying like hell to save this show.
Brian has just walked out the door of the studio, so apparently he's not coming back.
He's leaving, guys.
Let's see, Booker T versus The Undertaker. Why don't we start with that one?
Well, The Undertaker's currently nursing every
Thanks for joining
206.
us. Good night.
Is currently nursing 206 broken bones in his body. So if he makes it for the pay-per-view,
211?
aren't there 216 bones?
I thought there was 211.
Well, 5 bones difference. Some people have 6,
Oh, God,
more
it's
than
the
the
debate
normal.
between health teachers.
All right, this is really falling to hell.
Booker T wins. Booker T has to win. Booker T
I have
wins.
to agree with you, Jim. I think Booker T, there's no question he has to win. He has to beat The Undertaker,
And I think we'll begin to see signs of his turn out of the alliance.
probably.
Oh, good, Jim.
No,
You're done.
I have nothing else to say.
Why are you sitting in the middle button?
I don't know. This happened
I
last
just
week.
noticed that. It's been like 5 minutes. I just noticed it.
Well,
Undertaker's been in tag division for how long with Kane? Booker T needs to break out. Booker T win right here with the Undertaker dropping him over the top rope after the last ride.
And I'm still convinced Booker T could be a star in this business, by the way. I just want to throw that in.
I agree.
Well, speaking of stars, Test is going to be taking on Kane
Test, yeah. He's a superstar.
in a match that everybody will be waiting for.
So after Test hits his one big boot
Can I
move.
finish?
It's great. Brian's the one who always plugged up Test. He has this great off the top rope elbow. Yeah, it's great. He hasn't used it in 3.5
Oh my
years, and
God.
he sucked to begin with.
Savage
Speaking in the same language as Roddy Piper did.
Savage copyrighted after he blew out Charles Robinson's lung.
Forgot about that. I'm
Kane
sorry.
wins.
Kane wins.
I don't care.
I
Kane.
don't either, but Kane wins.
That's a fitting, and I don't care, so
Wait, is there a tag match or something?
I don't know.
What about Shane Helms? Is he
Is there
wrestling
a
somebody?
chick match?
Oh, God. Yeah, there's a lingerie match between two
Is
people.
Nivea going to be involved? Because God knows she's hot. We should get out of this.
That's question
table,
number
I
2
think.
for trivia this week.
Well, okay, rating the pay-per-view as it is right now, not knowing any of the results, and even after the results are over, we still won't know them. What would you give this pay-per-view? What would you tell somebody that's a first-time wrestling fan
Word
that
play.
may want to watch the pay-per-view? Answer it real fast,
5.
then.
5 out of 10.
6.
Annie, you have it. Wow. Anyway, we'll be back. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but stay tuned because you're going to be as surprised as we are. The second time in 2 weeks for another debate, and this one, I believe, is about Rob Van Dam and his accountability for hurting some of the other wrestlers in the WWF. Should he be held accountable in his push stop, or is it just part of the game? Thank you.
Mr. Tom Convetti.
Why don't you get the start?
Well, for the people at home who don't realize what's been going on the past couple weeks, ever since Rob Van Dam's push has gotten to the level that it's at right now, he's gotten into the ring with guys like Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, and last weekend, Raven, and has inflicted serious, well, maybe not serious, but has inflicted injuries on them as far as busting them open, things like that. And it was always the knock on Rob Van Dam and ECW that as good as he was, and as much as people liked him, and as phenomenally popular as he was, that the guys in the back didn't hold the same level, didn't see him in the same level because of how he continually hurt people. And now you're getting to a point where you're going to put him in the ring with your number one guy, arguably Steve Austin, and another guy who's well near the top, Kurt Angle, who he's already injured. And my question is it smart for the WWF to keep putting him in these main event matches with guys who potentially, if he injures them seriously, you're gonna miss for a stretch of time?
I think you can look at it in that way, but I also think you have to look at it in the sense that the WWF is really struggling right now, and I think that they've locked their eyes on Van Dam only because he's the most popular wrestler that they have right now. And the RVD chants are one thing, and breaking somebody open is another. But I don't think with the way the WWF is going right now, they're going to ignore Rob Van Dam's popularity based on a few. And this isn't to demean any injuries that anybody had suffered, but for a few injuries that he's delivered on people like Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho. And the one point about Kurt Angle's injury, it looked as if Kurt Angle actually bit his lip.
Yeah.
And that's what had happened. And I know it was during the spot where Kurt Angle was hanging over the announce table and Van Dam did that leg drop that he does across his. So one of two things happened. Either Van Dam hit him on the back of the head and Angle went down and he probably bit down on his lip, quite frankly. So again, I don't know exactly if that's what happened, but if that's the case, I mean, that's just something that happens. You can't. It's not like he went out there and tried to injure Kurt
Sure.
Angle.
Oh, and I'm not saying I don't think he did, but I think the recklessness of his offense really has to become a factor right now. And actually, it just popped in my head. He has hurt Austin. Whenever he and Austin had the one-on-one match, I believe it was on SmackDown, when he gave him the Van Daminator into the trash can, that was one of the moves that everybody had been talking about was a problem, was the Van Daminator, because that's the one move he can't control. He busted Austin open. And granted, Austin said he didn't have a problem with it, and I give him credit for that. And I'm sure he was just sucking up, saying, hey, it's part of the game. But I'm going to actually credit Bret Hart, because Bret Hart was the one guy who always said that injuries happen, but a pro wrestler shouldn't go into his job and go into the ring expecting to get hurt. He's expecting to be protected. Each wrestler is supposed to protect his opponent, and I just don't think Van Dam's doing that. And I think until Van Dam can learn to protect his opponent on a consistent basis, you got to pull him back.
Well, you bring up. Well, I got to thank you for the Bret Hart reference, by the way.
You're welcome.
But you bring up the Van Daminator, and you bring up the fact that Rob Van Dam should protect people. I think the answer is real simple. You can't control the Van Daminator, like you said. So why not just eliminate it from his offense? If this guy is such a great athlete, let's just stick with the frog splashes and the rolling thunders and everything else that he does. You don't need to have that move. I mean, his split-legged moonsault was fine as a finisher for him in ECW for so many years. This is just something that he created on his own, and it is something that maybe someone like a Steve Austin really can't take on a daily basis. I don't think anybody could, really.
Probably not.
But to draw on your point about Steve Austin, I think you have to look at Austin and say, well, here's a guy who lately has been injury-prone.
Yeah.
And I agree that the Van Daminator is probably a move that would hurt anybody. But you look when Booker T showed up, he picked Austin up and put him through the table, something that WWE has done somewhat routinely. And Austin hurt his back. So I think you have to look at Van Dam's reckless style and the way he performs, and you have to look at who he's facing and say, well, maybe Steve Austin's not the right guy for him. And if that's the case, maybe you have to structure this match in a certain way that Van Dam can only do certain things. And I realize that people, especially the ECW fans, are going to be up in arms that he can't do a Van Daminator. But hey, Steve Austin, you have to protect him. He still is the WWF's main guy, so I just think you need to eliminate the move.
Well, that's your only option then. And the other problem though with that is the kicks also have been a problem. At least in ECW, that was the one thing that a lot of the guys were complaining about. His kicks are too stiff, and he doesn't pull up enough on his offense. And that's just one example. But if that's the case, is the Van Daminator gonna solve the problem? If that's all you get rid of, is the guillotine leg drop to the outside going to solve the problem if that's what people were pointing to? I don't know. But I'm just saying that, you haven't had Triple H for 6 months. You haven't had Chris Benoit. I would just hate to see Steve Austin, or even Kurt Angle for that matter, take something that he isn't ready to take, or isn't prepared to take, and have to sit out for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely something that WWE has to think about. But, it goes back again to the guys that you put Rob Van Dam in. If you're not ready for him to be a main eventer, then that's something that WWE has to do. They have to pull him aside and say, hey, Rob, you can't do this, this, and this. But again, you knew when you went out and got Rob Van Dam, this is what you were getting. And to change that is something that's more easily said than done. You can't just take a guy and say, well, we want you to change your offense completely. It's something that just doesn't work. You look when the WWF brought Ken Shamrock in and Dan Severn. I mean, maybe not so much Severn, who did have some wrestling experience, but Ken Shamrock, his first match with Vader, Vader complained about he tightened up his hamstring and suffered a nice shot to the head. So again, they told Ken, I'm sure, to work stiff because it was a shoot style match, but that's some of the problems you run into. So you knew what you were getting. I'm not defending Van Dam so much in the sense that I think he's allowed to hurt people, but I do think that the WWF knew when they went out and said, hey, this is Rob Van Dam, this is the kind of wrestler he is, this is what we're going to get.
Well, it will remain to be seen how the WWF handles the situation. I'm sure No Mercy is going to tell us a lot, and the weeks after that will be just as telling. So we'll be back right after this with our world-famous rants.
On this Rob Van Dam debate, and you've probably heard hints of it earlier. I just don't think he's ready to be in the position he's in, taking on the two biggest stars in your promotion. The fact that he's injuring people left and right almost could be an indication that A, he's either not ready, or B, he himself just isn't used to the style of the WWF. And what I mean by that is, yeah, he was always been a stiff worker, and you've heard that last segment. But the fact is, he might be trying to overcompensate, and it may be on a subconscious level for him. But if he's not ready, and if he's not comfortable with the style, his kicks, his Van Daminator, he just may not feel comfortable with what he's doing yet. The fact is, I've said it before, the WWF has kept him in the hardcore division, and it's worked for him. Now you're moving up with Austin and Angle. I don't know if you're going to see him get exposed per se, but I think you'll see that he doesn't belong there this Sunday. After this match, I don't see it as a punishment if you pull him back a little bit. Let him wrestle some more in the hardcore division, and then move him up. But I think you have to do it. His popularity is going to be there. Yeah, the fans are going nuts for him. Give him a chance to develop more offense. Give him a chance to develop his personality. And the fans, 6 months from now, will still be crazy for him. Pull him back a little bit, let him learn some more, and let him get used to the WWF style.
Nice. I'm going to talk about two wrestlers in particular, the first of which being Lance Storm. I don't know if you noticed when Lance Storm first showed up in the WWF, he actually had the thing around his waist called a title belt. And for some reason, after he lost the Intercontinental title, WWF seemed to forget about him. They paired him up with an Ivory, and they featured him once, I think, at WWF New York cutting a promo, but I don't think anyone was really paying attention. And this Sunday's No Mercy card does not feature him. And I just can't understand why the WWF would have such a great talent like Lance Storm not be able to build, at least from the beginning, on the character that he had in the old WCW and try to promote this guy, maybe have him win, the Intercontinental title, U.S. title, anything. But it's just the way he's being handled now, and we've said this before on the show, and I've said it before in my column, that the Alliance mid-card wrestlers just aren't doing anything, and Lance Storm's a perfect example. The guy's got a lot of talent. He has somewhat of a dry charisma, I guess you could say, but apparently the WWF doesn't feel that he needs to be pushed, and I think that's just a really, really bad move on their part. But on the opposite end of the spectrum is the Big Show, and he's been we've criticized him a lot on this show for obviously his weight problems and things like that, but I think in the last few weeks he looks like he's actually dropped some weight. He looks like he's excited again, and one of the things I mentioned when I reviewed Raw this week was that I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the main events probably 6 to 8 months down the road. The WWF's done a good job protecting him as far as just letting him do certain spots, but I think he's worked hard, and I think eventually the WWF's going to reward him for his hard work.
Really don't have much to say this week. I'll just say that the whole heel turn for William Regal, at least if this first week is evidence of anything, that looks like it has been done to his disadvantage. William Regal's mic spots in his segments where he was in his commissioner's office were particularly good. But I'm afraid now that Mick Foley's back, and of course he'll probably have his commissioner's office, I think we're going to get to see Regal. I think we're going to see Regal have his time cut back, and I think that's really a shame. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun here by thinking that, but hopefully the WWF finds a way to keep William Regal on television as much as they can and talking as much as he can, because he's truly an asset to the program, and sometimes he's the most entertaining part, and sometimes he's the only entertaining part.
Well, if you watch Raw the past couple weeks, and if you haven't, I really can't blame you because I've fallen asleep through at least 2 of the past 3 weeks. You've seen a couple Dallas Page vignettes, skits of his new character, of his new gimmick, that of, I guess, what appears to be a motivational speaker. And rumor has it that this is what Page wants to do when he gets out of wrestling, be a motivational speaker, go to different, I'm sure, schools, colleges, what have you, speak to kids, motivate them on whatever a motivational speaker does, the use of drugs and, well, if you're asking Paige, I guess how they would be cool, but that's not good. That's not good. But I don't understand why the WWF is choosing to use this to Dallas Page, to give this to him right now. He could be one of the top heels in the Alliance. His feud with The Undertaker absolutely killed him. That could have went somewhere, but he got busy stalking his wife for some strange reason, then he didn't stalk her, then he stalked her again. And he hasn't had one good match in the WWF, which I think is a shame because he is capable of wrestling at least a half dozen full good matches in his 50 years on this planet. Page is one of those guys, unlike a Kevin Nash, unlike a Hulk Hogan, who's old and can actually still go, who can still wrestle decent, sometimes consistent matches, who still cares about his character, who still cares about his matches. But this gimmick is just going to saddle him, and I don't understand why they would choose to do this with him. It was funny maybe for about 2 minutes, but it's just downright stupid and idiotic now. And I don't understand if he's using that plus white thing on your teeth with the little tray you put in your mouth, but stop doing that. Your face is wrinkly because of that.
Well, this week, my column's called Sharpshooter. You can read it in the Daily News. Pick it up in newsstands everywhere Saturday or right now. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the No Mercy pay-per-view, and you can also read it on the internet, www.dailynewsmckeesport.com, on the columnist section.
And if you want to read my column, you can pick it up on the newsstands tomorrow, or you can read it on the web. It's www.triblive.com/sports. I'm going to talk about why Pro Wrestling Illustrated still rules.
Are you serious?
No.
Okay.
They still have a magazine.
Yeah.
They just bought World Wrestling, by the way. But Jim,
So go after, never mind.
the question.
Click on ProWrestlingV.com, click on trivia. This week's question is, what was the light heavyweight match at 1997 WWE pay-per-view Bad Blood? Name the match, name the wrestlers, you know the.
And check out the rest of the website, ProWrestlingReview.com. Check out our commentaries, posted interesting answer to a question. Please try to keep it clean. I'm sick of reading garbage.
Yeah.
I can write enough garbage. I don't need to read anybody else's. But anyway, that's the show for the week. For myself, for Brian, for Rennie, and for Jim, this is the Pro Wrestling Review saying come back next week. You'll be pleasantly surprised.